Hello and welcome back to the series or the course on the economic impact of climate change, right? So far we've discussed what is climate change and we've seen at a high level what are the impacts. Now for the remainder of this course, I'll be your guide. So we'll discuss what is the impact on specific sectors and what are the key policy actions being implemented to basically address these impacts, right? So in this video, we'll basically lay out a framework or an approach that we'll use to understand the economic impact on the important sectors. And from the next video onwards, we'll start looking at sector specific impact of climate change, right? So let us begin. So as a quick recap, we are now starting to look at the sector-wise impact of climate change on the economy. We have already discussed the basics, what is climate change. We have discussed how climate change is happening, and we've seen at a high level globally and in terms of India, what are the various ways in which climate change is impacting us. And now what we'll do is basically start looking at the sector specific impact. So far, just to summarize, we've seen that climate change will lead to multiple consequences. We'll experience rising sea levels, we'll experience multiple erratic and extreme weather events like high intensity of cyclones or very frequent forest fires, etc. We'll experience more droughts, we'll experience more floods, we'll experience more heat wave diseases, right? And we'll see larger number of people being displaced due to various, like all these consequences that we've discussed earlier. And finally, we'll see a lot of ecological impact as well, right? Ecological balance will be disturbed as a consequence of climate change that is already underway. And when I say underway, so we are already, like, in many ways seeing that, right? So many of India's large cities we see every year are like flooded, right? And life comes to a standstill. So life comes to a standstill means all human interaction or a lot of human interaction is disrupted, or human activities are disrupted. So what does that mean? Shops have to close, people can't go to offices, right? Roads are flooded, buses can't ply, vehicles get damaged and all. So that all of those things impact the economy, right? Impact the normal functioning of the economy. So we are already seeing the economy being impacted by climate change. We're seeing cyclones occurring at higher frequency, more intensity, and we are seeing yields of crops being impacted, right? So for example, recently the government had to stop exports of wheat and wheat products from the country because wheat yields were impacted due to higher temperatures, and we wanted to make sure that we had enough stocks to meet the needs domestically before we started exporting, right? So all these ways we are already witnessing the economy being impacted, right? So now what we'll do is study this in a more structured way. But before we do that, we've been talking about economy and economic impact a lot. I wanted to make sure that all of us have a common understanding of what we mean by the term economy, right? So the economy is nothing but a system that enables the use of scarce resources for the production and consumption of goods and services. So what are these scarce resources? Anything that is of value is a resource, right? Anything that gives us utility is a resource, right? So, and any resource generally is scarce. It may be, when we say scarce, it doesn't mean that it is of like available in very small quantities. We mean it is available in limited quantities, right? So water may be abundant, not really, but air may be abundant, but pure air is a scarce resource, right? Water may be abundant, but potable water is a scarce resource. Minerals, iron ore and all are scarce. They are available in very limited quantities. Coal is available in limited quantity. Petroleum is available in limited quantity. There is no endless supply. So every resource is scarce. There is limited availability, and we have to take decisions regarding how we are going to use that resource and in what way we are going to use that resource, right? So when we have petrol, for example, are we going to burn that petrol to heat water, or are we going to use that as a fuel in our motor cars? Or in our power plants, for example, are we going to run generators from diesel, or are we going to run large power plants? So a lot of decisions have to be taken. So this system that enables us to take this decision to decide what goods are we going to produce using these resources and what services are we going to produce using these resources, that is basically what we mean when we say this is the economy, right? So for example, what are the scarce resources? So arable land, the land on which we plant crops, is a scarce resource. So is water, right? Minerals are scarce resources, and humans are also scarce resources, right? Trained people who can perform specific type of activities, or who can perform specific type of intellectual tasks, right? Writing a piece of software or teaching you the economic impact of climate change. They are available in limited quantities, right? or even the whole population is not unlimited. We may be have a large population, but we have a limited supply of human beings on the planet. So these are all examples of scarce resources. And what are the goods and services that we can produce, for example, from these scarce resources? So from arable land, we can produce food grains. From water, then we get potable water. From human resources, we get education. From minerals, we can get electronics. And then we can get from minerals and human resources and other inputs, infrastructure like roads and services like the internet, etc. All of these give us utility, or we derive some sort of value from these goods and services, right? So this is what the economy is. So with that out of the way, let us now look at the framework that we're going to use in order to like basically carry our discussion on the sector-wise impact forward, right? So we have a three-part framework. So the first part will be to understand why is this sector important to the economy, right? Why is this sector important to the economy? Otherwise, why should we bother whether it is impacted or not? Second is, what are the ways in which we expect the sector to be impacted by climate change? And finally, what are the policy actions that are being taken or that are being planned in order to help the sector deal with the impact of climate change, right? So there are two keywords here, mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation means how we are going to minimize the impact, right? If we can, what you call, we fear, for example, that sea level might rise. Are there any ways in which we can reduce the expected level of sea level rise, right? And adaptation is that maybe we can't reduce it to the extent possible, or whatever. Let's say I'm just giving you a random example. If we expect sea level to rise by half a meter, and through our mitigation efforts, we are able to limit the sea level rise to let's say 25 centimeters, right? So but still the sea level has risen, right? So how are we going to live with the changed reality? So that is adaptation, right? So mitigation is reducing the change and adaptation is living with the change. So these are the three parts of this framework that we're going to adapt in order to understand the sector specific impact of climate change on the economy, right? So in four sectors, we are going to apply this framework and we're going to study the impact in four sectors. First one is agriculture and allied sectors. Second one is construction. Third is services. And the last one is manufacturing. So these are the four sectors in which we will study how these sectors are going to be impacted by the change in climate. And then we'll also look at basically what are the costs at the overall economic level in terms of implementing the mitigation and adaptation efforts that we spoke about, right? So we'll bring this video to a close here. The purpose was again to introduce this framework to you. And now when I meet you in the next video, I'll be talking about the impact of climate change on the agriculture and allied sector. So I'll see you in the next video soon. Till then, take care and bye.